Was a girl running in our group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look out, buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
We're still talking about rebates, or not rebates, recalls. There are rebates now. They are desperate. They don't tell you that though. They refuse to tell you that how bad they're raising the incentives to buy these electric cars, and it's not working correctly. I mean, it's working, but it still isn't doubling sales. It's creeping sales up a little bit here, a little bit there. 20 cars here, 20 cars there. Anyway, all right. Let's look to this one. General Motors is delaying the St. Catharines EV electric vehicle motor output until 2027, affecting 1,000 workers. Unifor, this got to be in Canada, opened a labor action center in Niagara region this month to help about 1,000 members find work following layoffs and retooling delays at General Motors Canada St. Catharines propulsion plant. Okay. The automaker won't start producing electric motors at the site south of Toronto until 2027. It's 2 more years, guys. And that's if we still have electric cars in 2 more years. 16-month delay of the original retooling on timeline. No, that's 16 months. That's a 16-month delay from their original timeline. Nearly half the workers at the plant, meantime, were laid off in the first half of the year as 2 production programs reached their end of life. The last V6 engines, oh wow, and GF6 6-speed transmissions were built at the plant this spring, according to Unifor Local 199 President Jordan Lennox. You would think being from Canada, you'd have some kind of French name like LaRue, or you'd be fancy. About 600 members are working at the plant today. Lennox said, I want to call him Lemieux now, added down from 1,100 to start the year. A further 500 Unifor members in the plant's supply chain have also been laid off because of the changes. The delay is certainly not ideal, blah, 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 but there's reason for optimism. In other words, if we start selling these cars, we're going to need these motors. If, in fact, we start selling these cars. That's if, in fact. VW. Now, this is big. VW, biggest car company in the world. They own more labels, more badges. They own a lot of stuff. They're going to close at least 3 German plants, the union has said. Guess who's doing the Stellantis shuffle, Charles? Wolfsburg, Germany. Volkswagen plans to shut at least 3 factories in Germany, lay off tens of thousands of staff, and permanently shrink its remaining plants in the country, the automaker's top labor boss said. Oh, they mean it too. They're not messing around. Management is absolutely serious about all this. And like I said, this is not saber rattling at the collective bargaining round. It's not either. Daniela Cavallo, VW's Works Council head, told employees in Wolfsburg on October 28th. This is the plan of Germany's largest industrial group to start the sell-off of its home country in Germany. In its home country, Germany. She did not specify which plants would be affected or how many VW Group's roughly 300,000 staff in Germany could be laid off. 300,000 people they put. Holy camole. The comments mark a major escalation of the conflict between VW workers and the group's management, which is under severe pressure from high energy and labor costs. Stiff Asian competition weakening demand in Europe and China, and a slower than expected electric transition. That's the last, and they want. That's the worst thing they'll say about this. Thomas, it's a slower than expected. Thomas Schaefer, who heads the Volkswagen brand division, said German factories were not productive enough and were 25% to 50% above targeted costs, meaning some sites were twice as expensive compared to the competition. They're making all the excuses too, Charles. They're backpedaling. They're pedaling backwards. They're wading backwards. They're because you got to cut this back. We're making some cuts to make us more profitable. It's because they all lost money, and a lot of it. I told you when they were starting to spend this stuff, they weren't spending millions of dollars on this. They were spending billions of dollars with a B. And it's just amazing. And then they were getting billions of our tax dollars from the government. Oh, go ahead and build a new battery plant somewhere in the United States. Here's $30 billion. Go ahead and build one. I mean, it's just, what is with this? And now you got a problem. We're going to talk about this the next segment because this is going to be one of the few times I decide I got to say something about politics. And it's not going to be little. It's not going to be big. It's going to be one little blip. Ford Motor Company plans to stop building its F-150 Lightning, that's the electric, from mid-November through the end of the year, amid lower than expected demand for the electric pickup. No. Really? The 7-week shutdown will begin at the end of the day, November 15th, and include the traditional week-long holiday break, which they have, with production resuming January 6th. So it's going to be down half of November and all of December. We continue to adjust our production for an optimal mix of sales growth and profitability, Ford said in a statement. Ford started the year by cutting in half planned Lightning production targets and slashing 2/3 of the jobs at the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, dropping it to one daily shift. In early 2024, a stop ship order for an undisclosed quality issue, halted shipments of the truck for more than 9 weeks, although production continued. You know what? What are they saying? Nobody wanted them.
Well, here's the other interesting part of this. They're actually trying to blame the Cybertruck. They're saying that, but again, remember, people have been on a waiting list for years for the Cybertruck, but they're saying, well, we didn't realize how popular the Cybertruck would be, but these people already had reservations. So the Lightning, which again overpriced and has a very special niche kind of demand, and they're trying to blame the Cybertruck for its waning demand.
You know, I got to tell you, Charles, and I think I got one more, and then we got to talk. We got to say this. This has got to come out. Okay. Ford is going to lower their managers' bonuses as company performance slips. Well, you can watch the decisions getting made now. They'll be screaming about these electric cars. Ford Motor CEO Jim Farley has told employees that the automaker needs to speed efforts to improve quality and lower costs. Really, like Stellantis and like VW? And that manager bonuses tied to those metrics would be slashed up to 65% of their total. Well, 65% take away from $1 billion. You still got a couple million to play with there. Of their total, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. Farley recently introduced a new performance system where company bonuses are directly tied to progress on key goals in an effort to change the 121-year-old automaker's culture to hold employees more accountable. Ford executives said October 28th the company could meet only the lower end of its annual guidance. Its shares fell more than 10% by October 29th. Okay, that's just an example of the dancing they're doing. The media and the government, they're dancing around the real 800-pound gorilla in the room. And they give you a vague reference to it. Slower than expected acquisition, slower than expected sales. Sales are down, but they're going to come back. They keep telling you, I got to tell you, everybody has to cut back now. You ever notice These people that put all these billions into these electric cars and research and batteries and battery plans, have you ever noticed that those are the ones that are starting now to cut costs? They got to replace their money. They're out that money. The government's out the money they
remember,
give.
This is the inherent problem with government is they subsidize the startup. So we're going to get you started,
It's up
but
to
then
you.
somebody needs to buy the cars.
And nobody is. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. People
Not
are
enough
buying
people
them.
are
Not enough to make it profitable.
But also, again, it's one thing to not sell cars, another thing to put all those EVs in a field somewhere, because that's just a ticking time bomb into itself. So that becomes the problem, is if your government is helping you create more supply than there's demand for, you have excess supply you have to do something with.
Oh, yeah, and they're stashing them in fields all over the place,
Right.
Charles.
All you need is a mouse to chew on the wrong cable, and now you have a whole field of EVs going up.
Yep, all going up in one big flame. And, you know,
To save the environment, by the way.
they put billions into this. The manufacturers did, the parts suppliers did, even some special interest groups gave money to these cars. Fisker got outside interest plus some government money, and stuck it to them. But I have heard at least one of the candidates that we're going to elect next Tuesday say the first thing he's going to do is reverse the electric vehicle mandate.
Well, and
that doesn't mean he's killing electric cars, but it's not going to be you have to.
Right. And so that becomes we'll tap dance as best we can, is that, you know, you have one candidate, and that again, this is why we vote, right? You have two people that have two vastly different opinions on the future of EV and on the environment and things like that, and you have to choose.
Is it the future of EV, or is it you're going to buy an electric car?
Right, that's what I'm saying, though.
Because that's socialism at its best.
If the mandate goes away, the demand is whoever buys a Tesla, and that's pretty much it. You have your 6% or 8%,
Yeah.
and everybody else keeps driving their internal combustion.
Absolutely.
Until the day comes that we have no more oil, and if we have no choice, if the day comes that we have no oil, then that's a different discussion. Right now we are plentiful, and so that's the problem. I mean, and that's again one of the discussions is how much could we be drilling in this country, to help costs.
Here we are worried about this climate change thing, and we're taking our planet. They said fracking was bad. My God, did you see what mining for lithium and cobalt,
right,
and all that does to
exploiting children and
all that does to your land.
Right.
They're going to open that plant up in Nevada somewhere. It's just going to destroy the landscape. It's going to be 3 football fields long and wide, and it's going to be deep. And when they dig out the lithium, and that stuff is volatile. Somebody comes by and throws a flare in there, you're going to have one big fire. You got to handle lithium ion with kid gloves.
Well, and that's why it may not be the best choice long term. We're going to have to find. We're forcing people to buy something that may not be the best solution long term.
Well, that's the other thing. These people in these startup cars, Fisker gone. How are you going to get that fixed? Okay, right. Mustang, Mach-E. What if they decide that's it? No more electric cars. Ford says.
Right.
Where are you going to get parts for that? Where are you going to get somebody to work on it? Nobody's been trained on them yet. Nobody has even come forth to the aftermarket and said, we'd like to train you on our electric vehicles so that there's never a problem and nobody gets hurt. Nobody said that.
Right.
And that's just wrong. That's wrong. They did everything backwards. We have all these cars. They're all dressed up and nowhere to go. It's just sad. And I'm sorry to bring up the political thing, but that, Chuck, God darn it, it's just not right what we're doing. We're doing this backwards. And we're talking, as always, it never fails. I've got good stuff to talk about, but I've also got these horrible electric car stories. Every time I turn around, I either get a story that tells me what company is cutting back or slicing or forgetting the electric stuff. And then there's other ones that I am sure are made for us to read that say, oh, they're doing great. We're going to put more money into it. We're going to pump $2 more billion into it. For what? I don't. And I'll say one more thing, and that's all I'm going to say about it today. All right? You think, Chuck? You think that's the last thing I'll say? I don't know. We'll see.
For this week.
But I'm going to tell you that I'm an older American, I'm a senior citizen, I'm an old man. I'm not going to be around that much longer, so it's not that critical. But I'm going to tell you right now, after all these years growing up in a country I love, nobody is going to tell me what kind of car I'm going to drive. Nobody. I spend my money on what I want to spend it on. If you want to give me something, give it to me. If I don't like it, I won't drive it. But if I spend my money, I'm buying what I want. And that's the way it's going to be. I don't want the government telling me, no, you can't buy that. You got to buy this. That's not going to happen in this guy's world.
Well, and so maybe real quick, we'll do a quick side tour because I wanted to bring this up as part of the stories. There was a fire this week in Fredericktown, Missouri. It was a lithium-ion battery processing plant. There's toxic gases that force mandatory evacuations. It's one of the largest lithium-ion battery processing facilities in the world, and so basically this facility caught fire. And now there was mass evacuations and all these sort of things.
Well, mixed with the right atmosphere, a burning lithium-ion battery can produce phosgene, which is a nerve gas. That's the nerve gas from World War One, and it's a form of phosgene. It's not the phosgene gas, but it's not good for you. Let's just face it.